All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm Howard Bender. I've got a very pumped up Andrew Cooper, and what is that? Look at the head bob. The head bobbing's probably as intense as we can get from John Impemba. But listen, it's this is it. This is the week one for the NFL season. Week one for your fantasy football season. All of that comes into play this Thursday night. Today was only Tuesday. I know everybody's cramming in drafts tonight, tomorrow night, probably even some drafts on Thursday during the day. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and get you guys ready, whether it's draft strategy last minute, whether it's waiver wire strategy as the preseason waivers are about to open up. I think we've got you all pretty much covered here. What's up, boys? How's everybody doing today? Coop, you seem ready to dig in. You're gnashing your teeth. How's everything going? What are you most excited about here for the upcoming season?
I want answers, baby. That's what I want, because we've gone through, it's like guys like Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, the locks. We know what's going on there. I want the answers down the rosters, down the sheet. Is Anthony Richardson going to be good? Who's going to be the second pass catcher on that team after Michael Pittman? Like games like that, I'm amped for, even if the folks out there looking at the lines and stuff aren't super excited. I'm excited. I'm excited about even the most boring games. Give me Washington, Arizona, a real football game. I don't care. I want to know all the answers. Who's going to be the starting tight end? Who's going to be the starting quarterback? Give me the answers. That's what I want. So that's what I'm fired up for. And we're going to get a bunch of them this week.
You'll be excited for that game when it comes DFS. I'll tell you that much. There's some nice price points in that Cardinals Washington game. We'll talk about this week for sure.
Oh, who are you salivating over the most? That I mean, is it going to be Brian Robinson for you there?
Well, listen, the quarterback coach is already out there on the site, so if you want to go check out the NFL DFS Week 1 quarterback coach, that's on Fantasy Alarm for right now. There's a quarterback on Washington that's written up here at the min price starting value of $4,900 for your DraftKings main slate. That might be the only time you'll be playing some Washington Commanders this season. It's the home matchup against the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, we were just saying on the show before that when you look at that Commander schedule, it is brutal. It is brutal. They play, obviously, their own division, Cowboys twice, Eagles twice, Giants twice. They also play the AFC East, and the easiest of those games at the Patriots, they got to go to New England to play that one. And then, they're playing the Bills, they're playing the Dolphins, they're playing the 49ers. If I'm picking a survivor league, I might just take Washington this week, knowing that I'm probably never going to use them again. I might just pick whoever plays the Cardinals every week.
That's exactly what I did in my survivor pool league. I've already locked in the Commanders, so I could be a week 1 exit if Washington isn't who I think they can be, at least for week 1. It'll be, I guess, we'll end the stress early being knocked out of a survivor pool in week 1, but the Commanders are locked in for me.
Was it 2 years ago that the Survivor world got completely blown up because I think Miami had like either dropped their first game of the season and everybody took them? Like that's always the dangerous thing, because when you take a team like Washington, and Sam Howell's unproven, we don't know exactly what Eric Bieniemy's offense is going to be like. Then again, on the other side with Arizona, we don't have very high expectations. But what if Clayton Tune suddenly becomes somebody who you really want to pay attention to? What if that secondary for Washington doesn't hold up in some sort of a crazy shootout kind of a situation there? That's, I don't know if I would play around with Survivor like that and grab Washington.
The funny one last year, Howard, was when the Seahawks beat Russell Wilson on Monday Night Football. That was a funny one because everyone's like, the Seahawks are tanking and Geno Smith is the quarterback, so let's just take the Broncos here. And that was a rough one.
Yeah, a couple years ago we had Houston upsetting Jacksonville week 1. That was also the everybody expected Houston to basically lose every game, and they went ahead and upset there. That was another one. Killer week 1 killers there for survivor pools.
Yeah. So if we want to go with just a pure chalk then and not get cute with a team like the Commanders, I mean, where's the place to go? The Ravens.
Yeah, Ravens.
Yeah. Okay.
Which would be, I mean, on one hand, it would be interesting to use the Ravens just right then and there and just get them out of the way, because I mean, I think there are a lot of unanswered questions about the Ravens themselves and really how their offense is going to look overall with Todd Monken's new system and some of the adjustments that they have to make. One of the funny things, from like the DFS standpoint, because I'm working on the watch list here, is it's Baltimore against Houston in week 1. It's a 10-point spread. Are we investing in a J.K. Dobbins this early in the season, when we don't really know what this offense is going to do? Or if the Ravens do end up with a substantial lead, do they just plod away with Gus Edwards? I think that's probably a question that Justin Vreeland, our running backs coach for DFS, is probably going to be answering as we go through it there. So Coop's looking for answers. John, you're looking for what? This what's your most exciting thing about the start of the season coming up? Please don't say Sam Howell.
It's the Sunday game day meals vendor. You get to wake up early. You get the crock pot going. Maybe you get the meat in food all marinated. You're ready to go for the game day meal. For me, is something I'm definitely excited about. But if we're talking strictly football, it's the rookie class. It feels like these last couple of years we've just had stud rookies enter the league and be immediately productive. And it almost feels like every year the class gets better and better. So you're looking at guys like you said, we had 3 quarterbacks go in the top 10 with Stroud, with Richardson there and Young. We have obviously the running backs with Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. How well do they look? JSN, is he going to be able to play in week 1 with the fractured wrist? I know he's already out there and he's at practice. We have Jordan Addison. We have a lot of guys here that are looking to make immediate impacts on their teams as rookies. So it's all about whether or not we see him now, those players actually come through and kind of live up to the build that they had coming into the season.
Yeah, a lot of questions to be answered there as well. Bijan Robinson starting off this season. Is he going to get that workload that we expect to see? Lots going in there. Listen, I was for what was exciting to me, I was going to start talking about, my Jets. Look at that. I don't think anybody's ever seen me wear a Jets cap pretty much ever. But this is an exciting time for the Jets. And yes, I'm somewhat invested in a lot of Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers tandems. But I think what I'm most interested right now is what's the news that's going to screw up everybody's fantasy drafts that have already been completed. And this just in from Ian Rappaport at Rap Sheet on the old Twitter machine. Andy Reid just told reporters that Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee at practice today, and his status is now uncertain for Thursday night. How's that for something blowing up in your face 2 days before NFL Week 1 starts up? Lions, Chiefs. Could we end up seeing a game, an opening game, without Travis Kelce? Coop, you look like you're about to throw up.
I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know it was possible for Travis Kelce to not play. And what's going to happen in the world of Travis Kelce and no one else, people, right? The Travis Kelce and no one else. I'm just taking Travis Kelce and then I'm never thinking about tight end again. Looks like those folks might have to start thinking about tight end again, huh? Well, welcome back.
Coop, how quickly are you going to pick up like Noah Gray right now? Like, is that an ad for you? I mean,
the thing about Noah Gray is that he is kind of their other tight end, but I'm not sure if he slides into that role necessarily. It's not like if Mark Andrews was hurt, I would put Isaiah Likely in lineups immediately. Noah Gray, maybe not so much. I will say this, though. If Travis Kelce doesn't play, Noah Gray is probably going to be the most utilized DFS showdown slate player there is, because I think he's 2,400 or so. Like, he is like $399. You know what I mean? You could put him if you put him as your captain for a lineup, you could just start every single player, like just the top players from every team. So I don't know, man. That's great. I just haven't. It's been so long since there's even been a question of Travis Kelce maybe not suiting up that we haven't really thought about it. We haven't even considered the possibility. But
and then you have to look at where the rest of those targets go, because listen, Matt Nagy very familiar with the personnel that he's got in the sense of like Mahomes, right? But I mean, he really hasn't worked with any of these wide receivers since they joined the Chiefs, and he left to go to Chicago. So now he comes back. The scheme doesn't really change, but where do those targets go? Has Mahomes or have the Chiefs kind of indicated anywhere throughout this entire preseason that this is the wide receiver to own, that this is where everything's going to end up kind of tilting towards?
So they haven't said these are the guys, but they've come out and said these aren't the guys. They said, right? They were like Rashee Rice and Justin Ross are going to start with packages, which tells us that they're not going to be full-time players, but they didn't circle back and say, hey, by the way, well, they're going to be the package guys of the other 5 guys. These are the 2 that play all the time. I think, John, Sky Moore probably the one that's safe.
So actually, I did see that they said that Sky Moore is expected to be a starter this year, and Kadarius Toney is expected to be ready for week 1. So I think that's what you're looking at as 2 of the wide receivers. You have MVS also likely out there on the outside. So, Coop, I think we talk a lot, like what's the guy that comes off the field? Is it going to be Toney or Moore in this sense? Because Toney doesn't really profile as an outside guy. So I have to think MVS is someone that stays on the field when they go to those, 2 wide receiver sets there. So that's something to at least watch. But they have said that it's going to be Moore, it's going to be Toney, and it's going to be MVS as the 3 guys there. So
and Justin Watson out there playing 90% of snaps and blocking the entire time,
playing the Heinz Ward role without the offensive abilities.
Honestly, man, that is kind of scary. That's kind of scary, and the Lions fans got to be a little bit fired up about their chances now, huh?
I think Lions fans were pretty much all in on this season anyway, with the amount of hype that they've gotten from throughout. So listen, this is something that's really definitely going to shake things up a lot more. And I'm kind of curious to see. I know that this is a fantasy show here, but I'm kind of curious to see if something happens to the betting line. I think the game total was 54.5, the highest of any of the week 1 games. So, does that drop a little bit here because of Travis Kelce potentially not being there? That's something. This is a man. I gotta tell you, man. I don't even know what I want to do about this news.
I see it at 53.5 right now. So maybe
so it's already dropped a point now from that.
Well, Bender, I'll tell you what, when we do our bold takes for Fantasy Alarm, and when you talked about impact injury, right? The 2 guys you mentioned were Travis Kelce and Stephon Diggs when we actually talked about it on the show. And could there be more besides quarterbacks? Is there a guy that has more of an impact than this guy, right? Like humongous impact injury. Yeah.
Shout out to OFace20. Oh. He's been drafted for over a month, right? I had to do the impression, didn't I?
Got it, dude. The roller coaster.
I've been drafted for over a month. I have 0 shares of Kelce, Cup, or Taylor. Talk about dodging a bullet. Yeah, for now, sure. For now,
plenty of bullets.
until Kelce plays and he balls out on Thursday. Cooper Kupp suddenly his hamstring's okay, and Jonathan Taylor gets dealt to a team over the next 3 weeks and comes back and is like a league winner the second half of the season. I don't know, man. So, all right, I'll tell you what. We will keep you posted if we get any kind of news during the course of this broadcast here. Shout out to our producer Ernie Acosta for bringing that to the Kelce news here for that. But beyond that, here, let's, as we always do on Alarm Fantasy Football, we touch up with the top news. And Coop, that puts it into the ball into your court here. What's top news right now that we need to know for fantasy purposes?
Yeah, no Brett Flynn, huh? So there's not too I'll get into some regular news first, and then we'll do some injury stuff. And the level of what's tangible or what not depends on what happens here. But one things that is 100% tangible and just happened and could affect the structure of this team is Daniel Jones sat down and he just got a new deal and he just restructured it, and the move frees up over $6 million in cap space immediately. So that's one move where you don't do that unless you have plans for that moolah, right? So do you guys think that Daniel Jones is doing this so they could add a piece right now, and maybe who might be in consideration?
I've seen obviously the rumors that Mike Evans is a little disgruntled down in Tampa Bay. You look at the failed Kenny Galladay experiment in New York. They desperately need talent at the wide receiver position there. So maybe Mike Evans finds his way up north here, playing for the Giants in a possible acquisition at some point.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely the name that popped for me the most as far as who it could be. But if they ended up doing something like that, but I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know if Tampa Bay would be wanting to kind of give that away at this point in time as the season starts. I know that they're not competing for anything, and but for the same token, they don't want to just walk into the. I mean, well, I don't know. Do they want to walk into the season like that? Would they get rid of Mike Evans? I don't really have a list of any kind of potential candidates here. I saw the news about Daniel Jones, but with every team kind of set in there right now for the start of the season, it'd be really difficult to see about like a last minute deal that lands a decent wide receiver in with that Giants team.
Yeah, I think you're right. And unlike past years, yeah, in recent years we've seen more mid-season trades. So I think maybe if it really is going poorly for the Bucks and they know they're not going to be able to bring Evans back, they do it at that point. So maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're just saving up some money to use during the season.
If I was Tampa Bay, I would be tanking. You have Baker Mayfield as your quarterback. You kind of already are. So why not move on from Mike Evans now before his hamstring starts acting up or something and he's not on the field and his trade value diminishes, right? If you could go get a first-round pick for him from the Giants because, the Giants have playoff aspirations. It's going to be a late round first pick anyways. Why not make the move, right? You're not winning this year. You're not winning this year. Move on from the player. Don't be the Angels. Don't hold on to Shohei Ohtani. Move on from your valuable players. Get the draft capital that you can get to rebuild. You're going to suck. Maybe you'll get the number 1 overall pick and you get the quarterback there to rebuild your franchise. And now you have another first rounder to add on to it, or you accumulate assets to make a move in the draft next season.
Now that's true. That's great. And it's very much a possibility. And I think that's something that, not just we, the three of us sitting there speculating. I guess the question is if you've got a draft coming up tonight, tomorrow, Thursday morning, I know FFPC in their contests and stuff like that, they have, drafts that go on Friday and Saturday as well as part of their big overall prize. So the question is, do you speculate that possibly Mike Evans does land with the Giants? Does that move? Does his disgruntledness right now kind of, move you into saying, well, I'm still going to draft him at his ADP. I'm going to ignore him at his ADP. Where do you hang with that?
To be honest, I'm already taking him at his ADP on the notion that this is Mike Evans. He finds a way to get 1,000 yards one way or another. And I think he's easily capable of it, again, with whether he's with Baker or not. And the reality of a veteran like this, and especially at a position like wide receiver, if he gets moved to another team, that can only mean good things. I don't think it's going to be a situation where he goes to a worse team. If anything, it'll be like when the Rams traded for Odell Beckham Jr. And then, it was all of a sudden a much better situation for him than it was before. So I think with Evans, I'm still willing to draft him.
Yeah. The difference with Evans this year from years past is he's not costing you a second-round pick to do so. He's costing you like a 7th. So I'm fine drafting him as my wide receiver 3 or 4 and understanding that 800 yards and 50 catches might be the ceiling. But if he moves to a team, he might have that value of that 3rd-round pick, 2nd-round pick again, depending where he lands. And now you're getting a steal. So he's the guy I'm willing to take a chance on right now, setting the expectations for him and then knowing what could be if he ends up somewhere else.
Yeah. Before we get to the next news, we have a question in the chat real quick. Owen popping in, asking us, what do we think of Olave's ceiling? Chris Olave. John, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's obviously he could be wide receiver 1 on that team. I know Michael Thomas being there demands a little bit of attention, but I think Olave probably supersedes him. Wide receiver, I don't know, 15 to 20 in that range.
Dude, then that means you're not taking him at ADP very much, right, John?
I have no shares in Chris Olave.
Yeah. What do you think, Howard? Do you think Olave can take the big step, or do you think he's probably just going to fall in the range John said?
No, I mean, I do feel like he can take that big step. I don't know what we can expect out of Michael Thomas, right? And that's an issue for me. However, I don't know if it's a popcorn headline or anything like that, but people have been making kind of a big deal about the fact that the Saints released their official depth chart again and have Taysom Hill listed as a quarterback. So, where are we? Because I'll tell you flat out, I mean, Taysom Hill at QB, You know what kind of, action that spurs inside the red zone. They start utilizing him. He's not throwing the ball heavily. He's doing the, he's running the ball as much as possible. Does Carmichael do something as aggravating? Like, I can see if you're not pleased with Jameis Winston, or if you're, you're not pleased with what your quarterback situation is. But you went out and you bring in Derek Carr. If you sign Derek Carr and you bring him in as your QB, why are we screwing around with Taysom Hill again? As part of packages as a QB, that right there. If Carmichael is really going to end up doing that as the OC and the play caller, it does affect Olave, I think, and not to the point where I'm going to be out on Olave. I've got shares of him. I've taken him late second, early third, depending on where I've been drafting, and so I'm nervous now.
I'll tell you right now,
I'm not out on him.
I'll tell you right now, if Taysom Hill throws a touchdown pass to Jimmy Graham, there's going to be a TV remote in my neighbor's yard, and I'm going to have a window to replace. Like
that's the Millie Maker winner right there.
I'm so done with that. Like, please make it stop. Please make it stop. And I'll tell you what, there is some. So there are certain sites, like you mentioned, FFPC. They go by the team's depth charts, so they'll change it. And people are pissed. They drafted Taysom Hill as like a tight end dart throw, and he's now classified as quarterback over there. So Saints are kind of messing with people's emotions right now. So on to other news. This is one, Howard, you mentioned, you said, it's not just us speculating here. And we actually speculated earlier this offseason. I did a lot of it, that Dameon Pierce would split with Devin Singletary. And then throughout preseason, they kind of used Pierce as the one, and Singletary was playing late in these preseason games. And we, from what we saw, the speculation changed. Well, now a beat writer close to the team, Mike Jones, came out and he says he thinks they are going to split, and that the split's going to be a little more even than people think between Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. So when a beat writer close to the team like this comes out and says that it's going to be more of a platoon than some people imagine, does that worry you for Pierce? Are we back in on Singletary? I've still been taking him a little bit, but I backed off. I mean, where do you guys stand? Howard, I know you've drafted some Singletary.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I backed off on Singletary in a couple of recent drafts only because I was heavy on him early on, but it wasn't for the fact that I was like, oh, well, look at Dameon Pierce getting all these carries during the preseason. I think it's I think that we were pretty much locked in early on, expecting there to be a share. We've talked about it before, right? What did Dameon Pierce ranked? 151st or something like that in pass blocking last season. We don't expect the Texans to be a team that's going to jump out to a lead and start running the football to try and chew up that clock. So I do think that becomes a very pressing matter for a lot of people. The fact that this news piece came out now, I think just validates the fact that we were onto it before, and that Dameon Pierce may not be that bell cow back that everybody was reaching for. And I have no shares of Pierce this year. Not last year. I had several shares of him because I was getting him in like the 8th, 9th, and 10th round, and then all of a sudden his ADP jumped up to like the 5th or the 4th round. And so when that starts happening, then I start to back off because you're drafting somebody at their ceiling as opposed to their floor. And now, seeing Dameon Pierce going as high as he's gone this year, yeah, I definitely worry about it. So I got nothing there. How about you, John?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was never taking any Dameon Pierce. I didn't think this team was going to win many games, really be in position to where they were going to be running from ahead, and he was going to be able to accumulate a lot of that. And then, of course, Coop's done a lot of that research about pass blocking. We saw how effective Devin Singletary was in the passing game last year. He was top 3 in routes run as a running back or something like that.
Yes.
Top 5 in routes run as a running back last season. So those things were keeping me off Pierce anyways. But then when you're looking at the ADP where Singletary was going, he was basically like one of your last picks in your draft. So if you're looking to just kind of grab a running back and you're looking at the running backs that were going around his ADP, he kind of had the best upside of the group. I mean, I was obviously taking a lot of Zamir White in that range as well, but those are two guys that I was like, all right, this is a certified NFL running back that I know even in a timeshare that we've seen when he was with Zach Moss in Buffalo and times he had to work a Cook at last year. he could be effective in a handful of carries in a role, but a couple of targets going his way. So I was grabbing Singletary. And if now it's going to be more of like a 60-40, that I feel even better about those shares.
Yeah, especially because that timeshare also included Josh Allen. That's the part that we don't have to worry about anymore either. So a couple other, real quick ones. Another Falcons beat writer, saying that he's down on Kyle Pitts. He believes, and kind of what we saw in the preseason, he believes that Arthur Smith is going to continue to use him like a inline tight ends, not really split him out. And he thinks that he'll be the fourth player on the team in touches. And I believe that he suggested that it would be Drake London, Bijan, and also Tyler Algier getting more touches than Kyle Pitts. So any concern for Kyle Pitts, John? Where you have him?
Again, not a guy that I was drafting a ton of. How much do we go into coach speak? What do we believe when it comes to these things? Sometimes the player's talent just sort of shines through as well, and he takes advantage of the opportunities. I've long said, I think for the Falcons pass catchers, I really want to see Taylor Heineke as that quarterback, not necessarily Desmond Ridder. So, if Pitts fell far enough, I was going there. Otherwise, I was off it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a guy who I've been targeting in drafts very much. I mean, I do like Drake London a ton, and I do have a number of shares of him. But yeah, Pitts is somebody who, again, I feel like people have been reaching on tight ends. I mean, we saw we look at the ADP on like Hawkinson and you wonder really like, why are we drafting them that high up? Again, give me a 9th or a 10th round Dalton Schultz any day of the week over this situation. I think there's a lot of issues right now and a lot of questions that the Falcons beat writers have in general. I think that there's a lot of information that's conflicting left and right, because I think that some are saying that Bijan's not going to get the workload. I think, who was it? It was NBC's Peter King, who turned around and was like, fantasy owners better be careful. I don't know if Bijan Robinson is going to return that value that you're hoping for. But the question is really where are we looking? Like, I can't sit here and say that Kyle Pitts is going to be the fourth in touches because Tyler Algier, the backup running back, because I'm sorry, they did not draft Bijan Robinson 8th overall to have him in a timeshare. Right. So, why are we sitting here saying, why are we elevating Tyler Algier to the point where he's going to see more touches than Kyle Pitts? That I have a hard time believing, unless, of course, everybody thinks that the Falcons are going to be with the lead in the second half for, I don't know, half their games this year, and therefore utilize Tyler Algier to kill the clock. So I think Falcons beat writers are a little.
Why would you be using Tyler Algier though to kill clock? Right? You have Bijan Robinson. I always go back to the Patriots days where they had clock killing Corey Dillon. Right? The reason they had him on the field is because he's the best running back to end the football games. They weren't putting in the backup running back to close out these games. You're putting in your horse there to finish it off.
It ain't happening. And the other guys, it's like they bring back fullback Keith Smith, bring in Jonnu Smith, bring in Mac Hollins. I'm not worried about any of those guys. So I get the notion, beat writers, but no chance, man. Last one I'll throw out here. And honestly, just let me know if this gets filed into the folder labeled "Who cares?" But the Cardinals have not named their starting quarterback yet. To Coach Gannon calling it a competitive advantage to not tell everyone who's starting. Though he did mention Clayton Tune is ready to go. Does it matter to you guys if it's Joshua Dobbs or Clayton Tune?
Not me. I mean, I don't think it matters, as far as, because I'm not really the only weapon from Arizona who I'm even remotely investing in is James Conner. And it doesn't matter who's under center. I think James Conner is the only one who's really got, that much value. I'm staying away even from the tight end situation there. I'm staying away from Hollywood Brown because I don't know what it is. To me personally, I think that you have to look at Clayton Tune over Josh Dobbs just because he's had the playbook longer. He does have a solid ability. I'm not going to say that Josh Dobbs is that much better in talent than what we're looking at with Clayton Tune. So I feel like Tune is probably the guy that starts this game, starts the season. Maybe if he struggles tremendously, then they try running out Dobbs. But yeah, I mean, I think that I'm more in line of just staying away from all Cardinals except for Connor. And then even then, I'm a little worried about it.
For me, this is just another situation where it's like this is a team that is not going to win football games. I think they understand they're not going to win football games. So why not see what you have in Clayton Tune? Maybe he's Brock Purdy, right? And all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't need to draft a quarterback. Now, they will if they're the worst team in football. They'll take the quarterback. But, we know what Josh Dobbs is. The only reason you're putting Josh Dobbs out there is because the kid's not ready and you don't want to go out there and just get murdered right away. You'll let the veteran take those hits and then eventually transition to the young guy. You don't want to start the young guy and then transition to the veteran. It just doesn't make sense to work that way.
Right. I'll tell you what, I drafted Clayton Tune, my last pick in the Scott Fish Bowl, which is the one super deep, super flex league where I might consider a player like that. And my reaction is still, okay. I don't what am I going to do? My other quarterbacks are Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson. So what do I do with Clayton Tune? Just look at him. So I don't know, man. But hey, somewhere there's a deep enough league where that's interesting. Anyway, quick injury updates before we get to the next segment here. Cooper Kupp visiting a hamstring specialist in Minnesota. Does that sound like a guy who's day to day to you guys?
It does not. I'm definitely, I mean, it's like really like where are we at here now with Cooper Kupp? And it's become problematic. I think what the problematic aspect of it is that we haven't gotten any reports, as far as what's to, what you're to expect. And, as a result, if I'm drafting tonight, which I'm drafting tomorrow night as well. I'm kind of this mindset. Like, I know that Cooper Kupp is an incredible talent, but I might just let this be somebody else's headache. Even if you're giving him to me at value, he falls to the 5th round, he falls to the 6th round. I still might, unless I'm like bulked up on wide receivers early, I don't necessarily know if this is a chance that I want to take.
I had 0 shares of Cooper Kupp going to the season just because I was worried about the quarterback play. Again, if Matthew Stafford went down, we kind of saw how, the upside of that was just eliminated. And now this injury just makes it even less likely that I want to take him. Even at the end of the 1st round, I wouldn't take him in the beginning of the 2nd round because there's wide receivers there that I like. CeeDee Lamb's going that range. You've seen Devontae Adams fall out of that range. I'd rather take those guys over a Cooper Kupp with a balky hamstring and Matthew Stafford with a who knows what back and an elbow at this point, right? So I've always been out on that group, and this solidifies it even more that it would take a massive drop for me to consider taking Cooper Kupp at any point.
I'll tell you what, with the Cooper Kupp and the Jonathan Taylor and all this stuff, I'm looking at Alvin Kamara and I'm like, that doesn't seem so bad now, right? three games suspended, but he's not hurt or anything, right?
I've been taking Alvin Kamara in drafts, and people are, I don't really understand why he's ranked so low. It's only a couple of games. I know they're looking at sort of the past, the past usage, and I know, Howard, you and I have gone back and forth on this a little bit. Once they change offensive coordinators, we kind of saw some of the targets dip, but a lot of that is injury related. If you prorate it out for a full season, he was still kind of on pace for that 100 target range. Going to miss a couple of games, but we do know that obviously Derek Carr is a guy that is more than willing to check down to the running back, given what we've seen him throw to the running backs before. So, I do like Alvin Kamara where he's going because once again, you're not drafting him as your RB1 or RB2. He's going as your RB3 or 4. So why not take the dart throw and see if Alvin Kamara can be that guy that gets you 700 yards rushing and 500 yards receiving this year?
Bingo. Jacob Ander with a quick question in the chat. He wants to know if he should start Khalil Herbert week 1 against the Packers, or if he should start Cam Akers week 1 on, I believe that's the Sunday afternoon game against the Seahawks in Seattle. So Cam Akers or Khalil Herbert? What do you think, Howard? Pretty close.
I hate doing start sits on a Tuesday here for Sunday.
Cam Akers. I'm setting my. I've been working on my rankings. They're going to be up and finalized within the hour after the show for week 1, and I have Cam Akers ahead, so I can. I've looked at it, and I've got those guys.
Do we even know what this Chicago backfield is going to look like with Khalil Herbert and Deonta Foreman, and even throwing in Roshan Johnson there? I mean, Akers is the guy, and as much as people would love to make something out of Kyron Williams, stop. I mean, he's a pass catching back at best, and Akers, is the way to go here. And listen, I don't love this Rams offense, but if you think that Cooper Kupp's going to be out and all the passing is going to go to Van Jefferson and Tyler Higbee, you kind of figure that they're going to lean a little bit more heavily on that run.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Here's my thoughts on Kyron Williams. You can be small or you can be slow. but you can't be both. And for that, I'm out on Kyren Williams. So give me Cam Akers. Other injury news. Albert Breer reports that Juju Smith-Schuster's knee could explode at any moment. What do you make of that? What do you make of that, John? Earn Dog with the graphic. I mean,
that image.
That's not my quote. That's Albert Breer. Quote from Albert Breer. Could explode at any moment, John. What does that even mean?
So, I'm a little, I guess, not confused by this because this was a report that came out earlier in camp, and then we've seen him kind of on the field a little bit. He said his knee is fine, and then it's sort of being re-reported again that this is an issue for Juju, but we haven't really come out from the team and heard anything. We haven't come out and heard anything from Juju himself saying, like, I'm not going to be out there week one. Again, another receiver that's going late enough to where if he does get hurt, he's not really killing you. No one's drafting the Patriots receivers to lead your team anyway. So, yeah, fine. Take a shot on Juju in round 10. And if his knee goes, then it goes, and pick up, Douglas or Booty or Kendrick, Bourne or wherever. Harper's going way late in draft. It's again, I'm a Patriots fan. Coop's a Patriots fan.
I'm not taking any of them. Dude.
I don't want to do. This is going to be another bad, sad season in New England. I think the best part of the year is going to be Tom Brady in week one, on the field ceremony. That's about it. That's all we got.
All the pictures on the wall behind me, none of those guys are on the team, man. Like, I'm looking at it. I'm like, there's Edelman, and there's Tom, and there's Gostkowski. I mean,
I got a promo code for signing up for a sportsbook. You got a free NFL jersey. I'm looking at the Patriots jerseys, and I'm like, I don't trust any of these players to still be here. I'm just gonna go with Tom Brady because why not, right? Brady. Like, why would I get any other current Patriot jersey? Just give me a Brady jersey.
I guess I can make an argument for I don't know, Judon. Yeah, you're right. You're kind of tough.
Who's the guy that you want?
Judon, I guess, is who I would go with.
Sure.
But, yeah.
For me, I was debating Julian Edelman or Tom Brady because those are the better years. Let me live
Good
in the glory.
The glory days.
Yeah.
Just go early vintage. Get that Randy Moss jersey.
Yeah.
That's
it. Two-tone Teddy Bruschi jersey that look pretty good. So I was looking at that too.
The two-tone, dude. Okay. Yeah, that's it for news, guys. There's not much else going on right now.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, though. I mean, because it kind of, to me, now all of a sudden I want to look and I want to head over to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy, right? And you guys, if you haven't signed up over on Underdog Fantasy yet, do yourselves a favor. Go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog. All right. And that promo code ALARM gets you a 100% match deposit up to $200. So, or no, it's up to $100. $100. Sorry, my bad. I don't want to spend all of Underdog's money here. So it's a match deposit up to $100 for Underdog Fantasy. But their pick'em contest now. I mean, with all the news that we've kind of run through here, I'm sure that they're going to pull the higher or lower numbers for Travis Kelce receptions and receiving yards right now. If Juju's knee's about to explode, maybe you want to say lower on his stat line for week one opening. But I'll tell you what, instead of going with picks that we're just not sure if these players are going to even play these games, let's play a little Underdog Fantasy, higher or lower here. And let's go with, one of our, just, one each here. Our favorite line that, stat line on Underdog Fantasy that we're looking to use in their pick'em contest here. Coop, I'll start with you.
Yeah, and actually, I had one in mind that I'm no longer going to do with this news. I was going to pick the higher number for Jared Goff, which was on his passing yards. It was right at about 260, 259, and I was going to take the higher. But now I'm a little worried about the shootout potential of this game if Travis Kelce isn't going to play. So I'm going to shy away from that one, and I'm just going to go with a guy where the narrative has completely shifted all offseason, except the numbers and the sentiment around him in the fantasy community hasn't shifted, which is Joe Mixon. We were worried he could get released. That didn't happen. We were worried that he was in trouble. And the morning of his court case, Zeke Elliott signed with the Patriots and Dalvin Cook signed with the Jets. So that's not happening. And we were worried that they were going to bring in a Kareem Hunt or something, or that somebody would emerge as a pass catching back. And that hasn't happened. So when I go into the Underdog numbers here and I see 59.5 rushing yards for Joe Mixon when he's not really competing with anybody, and they have a revamped line and everything looking pretty good. And Joe Mixon with his Joe Burrow with his calf, he's not going to be running it himself the way he might every now and again. 59.5, that sounds pretty reasonable to me. I'm going to take the higher on Joe Mixon, 59.5 this week.
Like that. John, how about you? I mean, I completely agree. John, you don't look like you're disagreeing with the Joe Mixon call here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with it. I think that it is. I feel like it's going to be close because again, we saw Mixon not get the usage that we expected him to get last year, and you are on the road running up against Cleveland's defense. So I do worry a little bit, but I think it's a doable total for him to hit the over.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
So John says John agrees on the higher.
John says it's highly doable.
Highly doable. Higher.
maybe not even highly, but it is doable. All right, John. Well, what do you got then? What do you think is doable?
Listen. What I think is doable here is going to be Zay Flowers higher than 35.5 receiving yards against Houston. We're talking about the Monken offense here and the passing attack that they're going to have with this new look with Lamar Jackson. You got Baltimore at home against Houston. We know Flowers is going to be a big part of that offense. So give me Flowers higher than 35.5 receiving yards. This is a guy that could do that in one play. So if we're going to see them spread that offense, he's going to be a number one receiver for that team, or at least a starting receiver for that team. I'm in on Flowers higher than 35.5 receiving yards.
It's a pretty low number, especially when you're talking about Todd Monken and an air raid offense, right?
Yeah, you can pick on Odell too if you like it, 38.5 also. But Flowers to me feels like the explosive player that I'm looking to get some action on at 35.5.
And Odell played no preseason snaps. Rashad Bateman has played no preseason snaps. Mark Andrews played no preseason snaps. This is the one guy I've seen in games in this new offense doing stuff. Right, Flowers looked pretty good out there, man. And now I'm hearing that Mark Andrews hasn't returned to practice yet, so a little dicey there as well. So.
Definitely a little dicey. Makes me a little nervous, no doubt about. I mean, they do say that Andrews is going to return to practice on Wednesday, so we will see what happens with that one there. But I still think that 37.5 number does seem a little bit on the low side. But I'm gonna stay with this Ravens Houston game. You know, the point spread is a 10-point game between the two, so everybody expects to see a lot of running from Baltimore. I do expect some running from Baltimore, but I see it coming from Lamar Jackson. Yeah, that's right. I'm looking at Lamar Jackson. See, I think one of the things that everybody seems to forget about when it comes to the Houston Texans is that DeMeco Ryans is their head coach. DeMeco Ryans is a very, very strong defensive-minded coach, and he's going to be running that team's defense. I do think that DeMeco Ryans has the ability to really kind of throw a monkey wrench into Todd Monken's plans here. But one of the things that I love about Monken's air raid offense is how it stretches the field horizontally. All right. And what that does is that's going to end up opening up massive running lanes for Lamar Jackson. He's going to roll out to his left or he's going to roll out to his right. He's going to look downfield. He's going to see what the coverage is. And once if coverage is tight on his receivers and, or on Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely, then Lamar's going to just take off. I mean, we've seen him do it before. We know that that's his MO. We know he loves to do that. 56.5 rushing yards for Lamar Jackson. I'm going to say that number is going to go higher than that. I think that, I'm not going to say that Lamar Jackson's going to have that 100-yard rushing effort that, we all hope he has, but higher than 56.5 rushing yards as that defense is all kind of stretched out a little bit. That's kind of where I'm leaning on for that.
And people have overcorrected with Lamar Jackson saying that they're going to throw more. Like the offense is called the air raid. Of course they're going to throw more, but he doesn't need to they don't even have to have any designed run plays for him to have 60 rushing yards, even though of course they're going to have designed run plays for Lamar Jackson. Like they're not just going to completely stop using their best asset in one half of the ways that he's amazing, right? Like, so the overreaction on the other side of Lamar Jackson based on, he might not run as much it's been crazy. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. Give me that one easily. He again doesn't need a single designed run play to get there.
No.
All right, so there you go, folks. Coop's call was where were you on?
I had Joe
Than,
Mixon.
right, higher than 56 and a half yards. No, 59.
59
59 and a half yards for Joe Mixon. Coop says higher. John says higher than 37 and a half receiving yards for Zay Flowers. And I say Lamar Jackson higher than 56 and a half rushing yards. Get your buttons over to Underdog Fantasy. Go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog. Use that promo code ALARM. That gets you 100% match deposit up to $100. Just chuck that in there. Play those pick'em contests that they've got over at Underdog Fantasy. You won't be disappointed. We'll be giving you more of those plays as the week goes on. So always stay tuned here to Alarm Fantasy Football. Jump over to the chat here real quick. DeAndre Swift season asks, he's got a redraft trade. Can you send it? Of course you can send it.
Throw in the chat.
Right? Throw it.
Get your questions in there.
We're going to talk a little bit of waivers here if we get some time. Maybe some Reddit Q&A that we like to do here. So, DeAndre Swift season, if you want to throw that question into the chat, we'll be happy to answer it. In the meantime, let's talk about this first period of waivers before that season starts up. On sites like ESPN and Yahoo, that waivers opens up tonight on Tuesday night. They don't just wait for the Wednesday like the rest of the normal world does. So, Coop, what do you want to talk about waiver wire players here? Guys who are gaining maybe some late steam here in the preseason?
Yeah, let's do one round of late steam guys and then maybe some injury related stuff if we have time. So the first one I'll say for late steam, this is a guy that I've been taking in a few spots, and the more uncertainty surrounding the situation, I think the better. And the guy is Michael Wilson. I've been saying for a while now, ever since DeAndre Hopkins got released, I looked at what they did last year with Andre Bacelia, our boy there, Ludovico Einaudi, right, Howard? Andrea Bocelli, yeah. They would use him just because he's a bigger body. They actually released him. So you look around and you've got the Greg Dortch and Rondell Moore and Marquise Brown. This guy they drafted, Michael Wilson, has 30 pounds and 4 inches on pretty much every other wide receiver on the team. It's a brand new quarterback, no matter how you slice it, because Cole McCoy's been released. So Josh Dobbs, Clayton Tune, doesn't matter. This guy is potentially going to be the starting split end right from the rip, and it's a brand new coach calling the plays, a brand new quarterback. So with all that uncertainty, who knows? Maybe this guy could be a guy the quarterback leans on. So I'm interested, not to mention, of all the players there, this was the wide receiver the new regime drafted. Everybody else is now like Rondell Moore, Cliff Kingsbury guy. He's just trying out for a new team, just like everybody else. So I'm interested in Michael Wilson with a last pick. And if you have waivers, see if you can sneak him on there tonight.
John, are you taking a schwitz in that Michael Wilson steam, or you got something a little tastier for yourself?
No, he's fine, but I do like he's good.
Doable. My picks are doable and
if
fine.
We could just shove Coop out
right,
here.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Doable. He's fine. Yeah. All right. Wow us. Blow everyone's mind, John, with a player who's available on waivers right now before the season has even started. Go ahead.
Puka Nacua, man. Cooper Kupp is a day to day. They say, everybody's now talking about Tyler Higbee and Van Jefferson, but who has the funnest name to say right now? It's Puka Nacua. So,
much funner than Michael Wilson. Yeah, I'll give you that. There's no question. That's not a contest.
It's more fun to say. And everybody's been sort of like talking about him. He was like, the fantasy Twitter's favorite, late round dynasty darling there was getting him and maybe filling in and getting some opportunities to play. And now you're looking at the headlines. If you just look at him and reporters are like, he might get an immediate week 1 role if Cooper Kupp can't get out there. So if that's the case, then why not, right? I would rather maybe take a stab there on a guy that doesn't have really any other competition, right? Again, Michael Wilson could be fine. No doubt about it for sure. But, they have Hollywood Brown, they have Rondell Moore, they have guys that are on that team. Like, there's no talent really on the Rams to me at the receiver position. So anybody could break out. It's how I feel about the Giants. I feel like anybody could break out on the Giants because nobody's really better than anybody else on that team. That's why I like Jalen Hyatt so much, which could be a guy that's available on your waiver wires as well. But let's rock Puka Nacua here right now. It's a guy getting some late steam.
Before we go to Howard's, I just want to say my player in the NFL draft got picked 75 picks before John's player. So
yeah, Tom Brady was picked to 199. So
yeah, there's a lot of Tom Brady's out there. On to you, Howard.
I think you're just trying to argue with him because the top selling points here right now are it's fun to say.
He smoked me with that. He Michael Wilson. Mike Wilson could be the most boring name in the league. That's not fair. Going with the fun name route, that's not fair.
Absolutely. You know what, though? I hope my wife is tuning in right now, John, because she loves drafting players like that. Late round sleepers on based on name alone.
Yeah.
So I think Puka Nacua.
She'll have more Kayshon Boutte than she has Michael Wilson. That's not fair, dude.
Michael Wilson's just too plain Jane a name there. Sorry.
There are some boring
6'5", 230. Look at his name.
There are some boring name players that are really good. Okay, Larry Fitzgerald. Come on, that's
true. It's true.
I don't know, man. Larry Fitzgerald. That's a kind of that's a hotter name than Michael Wilson.
Mike Evans. Yeah, fine. Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson might have the most boring name. Steve Smith.
Piece of him.
All right.
I'm gonna, you know what, I tell you what, it's kind of funny. My based off of like injury versus late steam. I think the steam started as a result of the injury, and I'm going to talk about Jaden Reed, the wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, because with Romeo Doubs banged up and still questionable for week 1, I think Reed is picking up a lot of late steam from a lot of people. I mean, listen, I think that he was already carving himself out a decent role as the wide receiver 3. So if I'm sitting there right now, and listen, I'm a huge Romeo Doubs guy. I think he's a great route runner. And I think that he works extremely well in this particular West Coast style of offense that they're running there, that LaFleur's running in Green Bay. So, I'll still invest in Romeo Doubs and not be too concerned, but late steam for Jaden Reed right now. Everybody's starting to have him climb up their boards. He's gone from not being drafted at all in a 12-teamer to at least being like a late round sleeper.
Yeah, I'm in, man, and I'll even take a little peek at Luke Musgrave too. If it's going to be open for that second spot, who knows? Because you can grab a hold of it and just run with it. We got that question from DeAndre Swift season in the chat. He says that the trade is he's trading away, and this is redraft 12-team full PPR, trading away Jamar Chase and Patrick Mahomes. He's getting DK Metcalf, Trevor Lawrence, and Derrick Henry, which at face value, you probably say, oh my God, don't trade away Mahomes and Jamar Chase. But his running backs are DeAndre Swift and James Cook. His wide receivers are Keenan Allen and Michael Thomas. So maybe not a crazy trade. I don't know, John. What do you think?
Listen, I am very bullish on Trevor Lawrence. I think that Trevor Lawrence has the ability to give you what we've seen out of like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert the last few years, a guy that can throw for 4,500 to 5,000 yard range, throw for 30 plus touchdowns. This guy was the number 1 overall pick in the draft a couple of years ago. He's a winner at every level of football he's ever played. His head coach tanked his rookie season. He bounced back as a sophomore to have the year that he had and lead a team into the playoffs. They just got him Calvin Ridley as number 1 wide receiver. So I don't think there's nearly the drastic drop-off from Patrick Mahomes as there is Trevor Lawrence. Now, we know the ceiling of Mahomes, but I think, and we're looking at what medium likely output here, I think that could be similar. So now you're really looking at DK Metcalf and Derrick Henry for Jamar Chase, and I would pull on that given your running back. So, I am for that trade. As weird as it sounds to want to trade Chase and Mahomes, I don't think it's as bad of a deal as it is. So,
yeah,
or may look. So,
yeah, I mean that's definitely a tough one. That's definitely a tough one. I mean, I don't know how you ignore running back as much as you did to have DeAndre Swift and James Cook as your top 2 running backs.
Look at his username, Howard. I think that answers the question.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that's a huge problem, and you're drafting like a homer, and that's just not smart. But I mean, yeah, this is the problem. You went into your draft and you had the 2nd pick overall in your draft, so you took Jamar Chase first. I don't know what you took second coming back to your team.
You took Mahomes.
He either took Mahomes in the 2nd or the 3rd, one of those two, right? Yeah. And so to me, this is the problem when you sit there and you invest in you know, in a tight end or a quarterback too early in your draft. And this is why I don't have, you know, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen on any of my teams. Because once you sit there and, you know, you have to, I guess, part with you have to make the decision that you're going to, you know, kind of push aside running back if you're going to make that move. I mean, that's you're blowing up your entire draft by making this trade. I get it. You know, I agree with you, John. I'm very bullish on Trevor Lawrence as well. I do like Derrick Henry, but I hate Derrick Henry's offensive line. I really do hate that Tennessee offensive line. We did also see Derrick Henry get hurt last year for the first time, missing some games. So with that kind of workload and that kind of wear and tear and that kind of a crappy offensive line, am I willing to blow up my entire draft for, you know, and you know, in order to make that move? Or am I going to be more willing to stay with Jamar Chase and Mahomes right now and see what happens with the running back position and waivers? Because you always know that there's going to be somebody who's going to show up within the first couple of weeks. And I'm sorry, you don't need to go undefeated in the fantasy season to have, you know, to make the playoffs. You know, I know everybody tries to do that. I'm not ready to blow up my entire draft for that. So I'll say no to the deal. And I'll cite the fact that, you know, I think the wheels are closer to falling off the Derrick Henry wagon than they are to him returning to form, you know, for whatever
I
he
do
did
like James Cook for what that's worth. I do think James Cook is actually a pretty decent pick for where he's going in drafts. And, you know, if we get the season out of James Cook this year that we got out of Devin Singletary last year, you're going to be perfectly fine at running back. But he's not, you know, if Swift and Cook can both be RB2s for you, though you have to start one at RB1, you're fine. We just don't know if Swift's durable enough.
Well, that's it. At the end of the day, if you, the name DeAndre Swift season, if you believe in DeAndre Swift, then don't do the trade. That's simple as that. Yeah. If you truly believe in the guy, to make him your username and pick him high, and if you're even listing him here, you're listing him ahead of James Cook, where I have James Cook actually ranked ahead. If you believed in DeAndre Swift, then don't do the deal. And if you feel like you don't believe in him, then do it. Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, we're actually running out of time here. Believe it or not, this has been the fastest hour known to mankind. So Cameron B, we do a lineup, a DFS, not a DFS, a season-long lineup live stream every Thursday. Not to mention the fact that we'll be answering more questions on Alarm Fantasy Football tomorrow. I'm turning Getting Buzzed into a 1-hour Ask Me Anything on Thursday. I'm not even going to bring in a guest. We're just going to talk about the start of the season. So you'll be able to get those questions answered from all of us here in the coming zone. So
join the family and get in the Discord, because then you always have access to us.
There it is.
Boom shakalaka.
Hype that up, baby. FantasyAlarm.com/ what's the link nowadays?
/win.
FantasyAlarm.com/win. Get into our Discord, get the All Pro package, take it for a 7-day free trial, whatever you want to do. But we got to go right now. So for Andrew Cooper, John Impemba, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.